According to an entitled Trump, who says he is disabled and would only want to be where I am, he demands that I give up my first row barricade spot at a concert. However, I chose to reject this guy down and deny his request, which caused him to freak out on me in a way that truly astonished me, even though I waited 12 hours to get this spot, and this venue has several options for people with disabilities. Alright, so I went to another nation a few weeks ago to see an artist I have been a fan of for 7 years. For me, this was an experience of a lifetime, and I had been looking forward to it for months. To make it happen, I made many mental and financial sacrifices. I went all out because I was seeing them for the first time, and maybe the only time. Even though the doors would not open until roughly 6 o'clock in the evening, I purchased general admission tickets and got to the line at around 4 in the morning, all while it was chilly outside. I spent the entire day waiting, cold, hungry, and dehydrated, but it was all worthwhile since I was able to get a front row barrier spot just in front of the stage when the doors opened. My ideal location was here. Then, however, a man behind me knocked on my shoulder and identified himself as disabled. He asked me to give him my place at the barricade after claiming that the venue was meant to allow disabled guests to enter early but had not. However, I am aware that this theater is quite accessible to those with disabilities. In fact, I have friends with disabilities who have seen performances here, and the staff always makes sure they reach the front row safely within the allotted time before it becomes too crowded. This guy was really tall, and I am a pretty short person, maybe 5 feet 2 inches. I honestly would have been willing to relocate if he had not been so tall or if I could still see from the second row, but if I gave him my position, he would fully block my view, making it impossible for me to see anything at all. But in this instance, I was aware that the vista for which I had waited for over 12 hours would be lost. I made an effort to compromise. I suggested that he walk to the right side of the barricade, which was still open. He could cling to the rail for support and still have a fantastic view because he is so tall. But he declined, claiming that the view was inferior to mine. He grew increasingly persistent as that section filled up during our conversation. He claimed that if he could not replace me, he would struggle. And I became irritated at this moment. I clarified that he needed to be in the accessible area, which is reserved especially for guests with disabilities, if his impairment was so severe. He ought to have brought a cane or other support device if he had insisted on being in the standing area. And I would seen someone with something like that close. He may be escorted to the first row disability seats, which is considerably more accommodating and offers a great view, if he spoke to security. He turned around and walked away after telling me to go F and calling me a huge Trump. I think he was not telling the truth and just wanted my place. I attempted to point him in the direction of the various options the facility has for attendees with disabilities. He asked me to forfeit my entire experience, and I felt horrible for saying no, but I do not think it was fair. Am I the Trump, then, for rejecting this man who claimed to be disabled? Because I am not sure what to do at the moment. Alright, I will utter it now. When he claimed to be disabled, this man was 99% lying to you. He would not have reacted the way he did when you told him, "No, I am not moving," if he was truly disabled. For this place, you waited outdoors for 10 hours. Additionally, Trump is suddenly saying things like, "You need to move. I have a disability." And you think, fuck that. Anyway, who is this guy? Of course, saying anything like, "Oh, show me you are disabled," would be unacceptable. Like, I am not saying that here. However, it sounds like this location is quite accommodating if he does indeed have a disability. There are places where you can stand and still enjoy a great view of the performance. He was being quite dishonest, in my opinion, because he was attempting to act this way and especially targeted you because you had the finest spot in the venue. Since he would not stand anywhere else but where you are, I firmly think he was attempting to scare you into leaving your position. I am really proud of you for sticking to your principles because that man was a complete Trump supporter. I made a mistake today and spent more than $2,000 on cat furniture for a cat who would actually prefer to sleep in a cardboard box rather than the specially made furniture I made for her. And I genuinely do not know what to do at this moment because I feel so ashamed. This is what took place. Okay, so I, an adult guy, spent $1,000 on cat furniture and just take a wild guess as to where she sleeps. Congratulations! You have a far better understanding of cats than I do if you predicted that it was inside the cardboard box it came in. allow me to introduce the scene. I decided that instead of giving my cat any of the cheap stuff from the pet store, she should have the best. No, I hired a real artisan to make a solid oak velvet cushion cat bed for me. Imagine custom furnishings, minus a four-legged tyrant that spends much of her time planning my murder. I was ecstatic when the cat bed arrived. Instead, she sniffed it once, gave me the feline equivalent of an eye roll, and climbed right into the cardboard box it came in. I had pictured her lounging on her velvet throne like the queen she is. After shredding the packing paper and settling in, she has not turned around. I had made every effort to entice her into her luxurious bed. She ignores me entirely if I offer her treats. She seldom looks at catnip when I offer it to her. She would look at me as if I were the most stupid person alive if I even waved one of those feather wands over it. She has transformed the cargo box into an opulent penthouse suite in the interim. You spent $1,000 on a bed, and I am enjoying my best life in free housing? That is what she does now, lounging there and occasionally glancing out to give me the side eye. I am fairly certain that she is making fun of me. Since she opted for cardboard instead of velvet cushions, I honestly think she may be a minimalist interior designer in disguise. I now firmly believe that cats are an extraterrestrial species that has come to Earth to make us humble. Somehow, they have taught us to give in to all of their demands while rejecting everything in favor of trash. However, I have learned my lesson by now. I will just purchase her a new box the next time, perhaps avoiding the financial embarrassment. You bought cat furniture for $1,000? That does not sound like a good idea, therefore it sounds like you desired that more than your cat. I could have warned you that this would not work out, even though I do not even own a cat. That cat would much rather sleep in a box than in a beautiful bed, so perhaps you have learned your lesson and will not spend that much money again. Am I the trump for explaining to my coworker why she may not be as popular with some customers and why she may not receive as many tips as other servers? Since she is currently furious with me for being honest with her, I am at a loss on what to do. This is what took place. I am employed as a server in a restaurant. A few months ago, one of my co-workers began working here after moving up from Georgia for college. She puts on a lot of southern charm all the time. She refers to everyone as honey, sweetie, and so forth. In addition, she usually engages in conversation with guests rather than simply delivering them food or beverages and then letting them eat. Additionally, it is rather clear that many of them are unwilling to engage in meaningful conversation with her. When they respond with a single word, she simply charges ahead and addresses them. Additionally, management has reprimanded her on multiple occasions for this. She was outraged about 2 weeks ago when a customer scolded at her for calling her honey, saying, "Do not call me that." She also laments that her tips are lower than those of the other servers. She explains that it is because her southern accent makes people assume she is dumb. However, I do not believe that to be true. When she asked me for guidance, I told her that it was because she wastes time attempting to strike up a conversation after taking so long to bring things out. Additionally, I mentioned that the overuse of pet names comes across as somewhat patronizing. Furthermore, you would not properly term them strangers in this context. She informed me that she would lose even more money if she started acting rudely toward clients. I assured her that it was not impolite. This is simply the way it is. Additionally, it is impolite to the other patrons she is expected to serve when she spends all of her time attempting to strike up a conversation rather than carrying out her duties and calling them strange names. She has been avoiding me and is now upset with me. Perhaps when I tried to explain why others are complaining about her, I should have been more tactful. However, I was also under a lot of stress because there is a lot going on during the Christmas season. So, really, am I at fault in this circumstance? Because I am not sure what to do at the moment. Alright, I would probably not tip my server very highly if they approached me and began talking to me non-stop while I was attempting to eat. I might not tip them at all, in fact. Really, this woman is still attempting to speak to me when the meal is hot? Just quit, it is like. I simply do not want to speak with you. A server that is nearly invisible is the ideal sort. When you need them, they are there. They are friendly and pleasant, but they also do not disturb you too much and keep to themselves. She seems to be paying far too much attention to one table at a time, even though it is a balancing act. And it makes perfect sense to me why somebody would say, listen, do not call me honey and sweetie. Because it can come across as quite false and condescending if you do that too much. The original poster, in my opinion, got that just right. It is, in my opinion, a self-inflicted problem for your coworker to not realize what is going on or even to disregard the fact that management has taken a hardline against her. At this stage, she ought to be able to determine why she is not receiving many advice. Because, really, she just has to perform her job and leave clients alone. It sounds like this coworker is far too narrow-minded to comprehend the facts herself, so no, you are not the Trump for speaking the truth. During a workplace Christmas party, my mother-in-law's strange practice of inviting my husband and me to events but then canceling a day or two later finally got to her. And to be honest, I am still quite pleased with her response today. This is what took place. It is well known that my mother-in-law dislikes both my spouse, who is her stepson, and me. We essentially ignore her antics, and simply do not interact with her. Because she detests being reminded of my father-in-law's previous marriage, she makes a concerted effort to keep her biological family away from us. However, she will make a special effort to seem to be the patient mother-in-law. Days later, she cancels plans in private, but she permits the father-in-law to attempt inviting us to family events in public for appearances. Because the mother-in-law and father-in-law are employed by the same company, we do not often get together outside of the yearly corporate holiday party. Now, this is where the story's main action takes place. Every year, the company throws a lavish celebration with fancy food. They have a DJ, a dance floor, live entertainment, and an open bar. Everyone gets all dolled up and shows off with the bosses and everything. Everyone is enjoying themselves and drinking. Everyone except my mother-in-law and her aggressively abused firstborn and his new girlfriend, that is. Although the new girlfriend is pleasant, they both seem determined to keep her away from us and actively use passive-aggressive remarks to cause arguments. We do not react now. Since we know everyone there and they don't, we just keep having a good time and laughing. The fact that they appear to be abandoning us becomes inconsequential. That is, until my father-in-law, who is extremely inebriated and elated, comes up to us and asks us to spend New Year's with him and his family before heading out for the evening. We happily agree, but when she strode up and pretended to be the devoted mother-in-law, telling us that she hoped we would all get together soon, I knew exactly what to say. She hugged me strongly as she said this. We already received the invitation for New Year's, so your dream is fulfilled, I said softly in her ear as I put my arms around that grumpy woman and held her in close. See you then. I then gave her a loud peck on the cheek. In that instant, she looks completely appalled and bolts out of there like a bat straight out of Hades. When I tell my spouse what I did, he just chuckles and he is staring at me while I am just smiling like a Cheshire cat. 3 days later, my father-in-law calls to apologize for having to postpone the event due to a family situation that required them to travel out of town. The father-in-law had not remembered that he had given us locations years ago and had never turned it off. And sure enough, they spent the whole night at home. In all honesty, I do not believe we have ever laughed so hard. Since then, we have also started to gently decline them and avoid ever having to deal with them by using the same justification, a family emergency. The mother-in-law sounds rather poisonous, yikes. She genuinely only extends invitations to events so she can cancel and say, oh, I am sorry, but you are not invited. She is merely maintaining outward appearances to give the impression that her family is happy. So, yes, your mother-in-law is quite poisonous and strange, in my opinion. In the middle of a cafe, my husband's pregnant mistress pleaded with me to leave my family so she could be with my husband and raise their child. And to be completely honest, this has upset me so much that I am at a loss for what to do. This is what took place. Alright, so I am not even sure what this mistress I am going to describe is or whether the term mistress is appropriate. My husband claims that it was an inebriated one-night error. Although they are in the same field and work circles, they do not collaborate. 3 months ago, during a business function, my husband was brought to our home intoxicated. He was in tears. In addition to all of that, he was talking incoherently. I attempted to sober him up, but I was unable to pull him onto the couch because his legs were not strong enough to support him. After dozing off on the ground, he came clean the following day. He was crying, and in all the years we have been married, I have only seen him cry a few times. He added that he slept with her but that everything was hazy and he did not recall anything. I can only characterize my reaction as extremely violent, so I will not type it in. I let loose on him, but not violently. I cried and screamed, and when it woke my children, I lied to them. The way he described having a cloudy recollection and that he did not drink that much honestly sounded quite suspicious, so we tested him for any drugs. Even though it is terrible, I was somewhat relieved that it could have been that and that he had not cheated on me voluntarily. However, we learned that his system contained nothing dubious. Although the last 2 months have been really difficult for us, we are gradually improving in therapy. Not divorcing him may be viewed as weak by some, but I simply cannot bring myself to do so. And trust me, I gave it a lot of thought. Before she received his number and sent him a photo of her blood test a few days ago, he had not spoken to her since that evening. She is requesting to meet up with him, and it appears that she is pregnant. We decided that I would meet her because an innocent life was at stake, even if it pushed us into yet another downward spiral. Although I wish I could say that she is terrible and that I despise myself for it, we would have been close friends in a different situation. She appeared embarrassed and, to be honest, confused. My spouse and I are not that much younger than her. Although she is 27 years old and we are 30 and 31, she was raised in a protective environment by her devout parents. That is exactly what she stated, not that it is an excuse of any sort. She became quite quiet when I asked her what she planned to do with the kid. That really blew my head, so I am not sure what I was expecting her to say, but it definitely was not her asking me to leave my spouse. She said that her parents would cut her off for having an unwed kid and that her boyfriend would leave her as soon as he learned of it. I will get a substantial compensation and I can start again, she said, acknowledging that she could not handle it alone. I giggled when she said that. God forbid, but I laughed more than I had anticipated. She began to cry throughout this time. My sanity has been put to the test during the last 2 months, and I am running low on energy. I assured her that I would not abandon him when I had calmed down. He will arrange for custody and support if she want to have the child, but that was about it. Then, in the midst of the cafe, she began to cry even more, but my God, we were already getting glances from my insane people who were laughing and pleading with me to leave him. However, I informed her that I wouldn't. Since I was 15 and he was 16, my spouse and I have been together. Because she spent some time with my husband, I will not disregard the fact that we remained together throughout high school, became engaged and married while pursuing our bachelor's and master's degrees, have 2 lovely children, and are pursuing more. I cannot even recall a life without him because he is all I have ever known. Let us also assume that I consented to leave him. Then what? After he marries her, she will take over my life and spend half of my time with my children. By the time I finished my tirade, I was crying and had not given her a chance to speak. She was still crying when I left her there. Before taking any further action, my spouse and I are awaiting the results of a paternity test that we have already discussed with a lawyer. Before blocking her number, my husband texted her my contact information and instructed her that all conversations must go through me. I did not ask him to do this, but he is making an effort. If it turns out to be his, I simply do not know what to do because this is such a difficult circumstance. Alright, let us take a moment to step back and attempt to comprehend that this woman was trying to say, oh, yeah, leave your husband. This child cannot be raised by me alone. You will receive a payout and a new beginning. What say you? Is that a good sound? I mean, this woman is completely insane. You should not have to suffer the consequences of losing your family just because she made the worst decision of her life. You are essentially saying, okay, let us get a paternity test, which I absolutely adore. We can follow that course if it belongs to my husband. However, given her behavior, I would not be shocked if it belonged to someone else. The fact that she ever posed the question in the first place, in my opinion, is incredibly poisonous, so I sincerely apologize that this happened and hope that everything works out for your family. According to my dad, I spend more time with my husband's family than with my own immediate relatives. However, I believe that I spend far more time with my dad's side of the family than I ever do with my husband's, thus the exact opposite is true. And I am so frustrated right now that I am at a loss on what to do. This is what took place. First of all, I am genuinely asking myself if I do not spend enough time with my family. I am so worn out with their demands. My dad said, "Well, I am going to tell you, I feel like you guys are constantly putting his needs or his family before your needs and your family," after I confirmed arrangements for my husband and I to visit today. Furthermore, that is unfair. We are like, what? Right now, are you kidding me? Even though I am an adult, I still respond to her family's demands as if I were a child. Do they require funds? I will give them money, then. I am the driver if they need one. My mom and stepdad are always on business trips, so if they need a babysitter or a homesitter, I will be happy to help. Do you want me to attend an event? I will be there if you provide me a time and date. And since they are, of course, family, I do all of it for free. In addition to managing a full-time job, weekly appointments, and a married life, I have various limitations that make it difficult for me to work full-time in the first place. In addition, I have everyday obligations that I must attend to. In addition, I travel several times a month just to be there. And that does not even account for when they require my assistance. I put my family's needs ahead of my own energy and mental well-being. Apparently, though, it is insufficient. Nothing I do will ever be sufficient. I am so exhausted. In contrast, my spouse may get to see a member of his family once every 3 or 4 months. Furthermore, that is not fair to him right now. Because it is the other way around, my dad is totally deceived. Just this week, my husband and I went to see my dad twice, but we have not seen his mother since Thanksgiving. And today, we are going to repeat it. In addition, once the week prior to that and earlier. This is what I responded to when my dad texted me. I simply cannot understand how that can be true. I just had my cousin stay with me for a week and a half. I visited Papa when I was spending Christmas at Grandma's. We came to see you multiple times a month. I attend every function my siblings host. I am there when they say they need me. However, my spouse is never able to attend his. Not even one of his brother's basketball games has been within his reach. Someone from my family insisted that we attend, so he had to cancel arrangements with his family, which is unfair to him. I have never abandoned my plans for his. Every few months, he spends time with his family. He is actually going to see his grandmother for the first time in 4 years next weekend, and I will finally get to meet her. He has met every member of my family, and whether he is present or not, I always get to see you all. Even though we are married and I have only met his parents, one set of grandparents, and one set of siblings, I still have not met a lot of people. He does not get to see his family too often. He and his siblings had not even seen their father in more than a year. In actuality, nobody is able to contact him. It had been a few months since we had visited his mother before Thanksgiving, so we went to her for Thanksgiving and yesterday for a late Christmas. Tonight, we are going to your place to celebrate Christmas. We spent Christmas together at Nana's house, and I had been to see you a few days earlier. In addition, I spend several times a month with my mother and siblings. He basically says, "Well, maybe it is just me," in response. You do not come visit me many times a month, even though I invite you all virtually every week, so I just feel like you guys do it too. I live 9 minutes away, and you people only occasionally stop by, sometimes not even once a month, and you have never, ever invited your brother and me to come over and hang out with you all. First, I go to see him every Saturday. If I cannot make it on Saturday, I go on Sunday night. Secondly, he invites us to church rather than just to hang around. We literally practice different religions, thus I will not be attending his or any other church. I find it really awkward, and I have repeatedly told him that the answer will always be no, but he still asks me every Sunday. I am like, I am sorry, but not only do we hold different beliefs, but we are the very kind of people your denomination proudly and loudly declares to despise. Thirdly, his residence is 40 minutes distant, not 12. To be honest, I have no idea where he got that figure. Fourth, aside from possibly my cousins, we do not invite my side of the family over because they are quite critical and have attempted to rudely just show up at our home without calling. They actually made offensive comments about our roommate, our dog, our decor, our way of life, and our beliefs while we were moving. They also said that I did not do a good enough job of keeping the floors clean. In summary, they have generally spoken a lot of offensive and critical things. He has repeatedly expressed his displeasure with our husky German Shepherd mix's excessive shedding and the dog hair that gets all over him. In addition, my brother has a dog phobia. Why is he even bringing this up as a point, then? As if he is not even interested in coming over. To be completely honest, I am just so tired. Everyone seems to want to drag me around and insist on spending time with them. Sincerely, I just wonder if I am doing enough. People my age who spend as much time with their families as I do are not people I personally know. I also know other people who moved out and have not spoken to their parents since. This year, a buddy of mine has seen hers 2 times. And he ought to feel fortunate, in my opinion. He is allowed to spend any amount of time with me. I am attempting to manage all of this other crap while still leading my own life. Give me grace, please, since I feel so overwhelmed, my God. Yes, it sounds like your dad is really toxic, and I understand why you are frustrated. He is acting in a really entitled manner. In addition to essentially making up all this other bullshit about how you are or are not doing enough, he truly expects you to spend every waking second with him. I sincerely apologize for the way you are being treated since his actions are completely intolerable. Subscribe to Night Diaries Hub if you enjoy I'm Me a Trump.